Well, it happened. The Avalanche lost in the year 2022. I guess if you're going to lose it, I guess it's in this fashion and not in an overtime or a shootout fashion. Avs just didn't have, I mean, they played well, but it was just one of those games where they just couldn't break through. So Kyle and I are going to break this all down, and we'll even get into some Claude Giroux talk because why not? Everybody else is. Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. On today's episode, we will be discussing, obviously, the Avalanche 4-1 loss to the Dallas Stars. We will be getting to our sound check as well, kind of our songs that kind of summarize this game, and we will be discussing Claude Giroux, because is he on the way to Denver? It's possible. But it's possible he doesn't. So Kyle and I will be discussing that. I also, before we get started, want to let everybody know this is one of two episodes that will be dropping today. We recorded a crossover episode with Tony from Locked On Vegas Golden Knights. And obviously that's relevant to today because with the Avs having a back-to-back, they're playing right away tonight. They have no time to rest, which I think I might have just changed my song because of what I was just saying. I don't know. I have to think about that now. Yeah, I think, you know what? I think I have. All right, whatever. But because of that, you're going to get this episode now where we're talking about reviewing the game. And then at noon Mountain Time, 2:00 Eastern, that episode with Tony will also drop. So a double dip today for Locked On Avalanche. The more the merrier.
You betcha.
All right. First things first. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Follow the show on social media outlets, LOP_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com, and follow the show's YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. Avalanche go down 4-1. Like I said, they lose their first game in the calendar year of 2022, their first regulation loss in 2022. And I'm not upset with the way that they played. Sometimes you're just going to do that. You're going to play well and run into a goalie that has your number and has everything on lockdown. And that's what they ran into with Oettinger tonight. And he is the future of the Stars, and maybe this is his jumping off point. I'm not terribly upset. I mean, you're upset over the loss, but you're not upset because they played poorly. Powerplay, we'll get to that, but overall, I thought they were okay.
Yeah, it was. I mean, especially if you double up a team on shots, you expect to put up more on the scoreboard, but it was a night of bad puck luck, and especially off the last Dallas Stars game, it's a tale of two goalies for both teams. Pavel didn't have the greatest night, but boy, Oettinger did.
He looked, he's the future for them. And he looked fantastic. I'm getting updates as we're recording this because obviously we're doing this very shortly after the game is over. The Joe Pavelski's second goal, the one that was reviewed or challenged by the Avalanche, where it looked like Pavelski his stick kind of moved Francouz. This is coming right from Francouz. He ran into my pad, got me totally off balance. If this isn't goalie interference, I don't know what goalie interference is. What do you think of that? What do you think?
Honestly, that's not a typical hockey answer. Usually they deflect, they don't admit, and they just you never hear individual kind of like, for lack of a better term, whining about something. But
yeah,
like if you're going to complain about a call, that's football, bro. Like you just say, hey, we were just in bad positions. Like you go, we, but don't. That's an odd response from Pavel Francouz.
You're right. It's refreshing to hear maybe some honesty out of, because not only hockey players, there's a lot of athletes kind of just most of the time will take the high road, like, and just give you the basic canned answers, like, oh, I should have made the play, and it's not about that. I should have been better on the play. I should have had better positioning. However they want to phrase it. But every once in a while, you do get a soundbite from a player, and I think this is one of them. He ran into my pad, got me totally off balance, and even if I disagree with that, you're right. It is kind of refreshing to hear some, a goalie kind of just come right out and kind of say, no, that is goalie interference. I'm kind of on the fence on that. I mean, you can see I say I'm on the fence, and maybe I'm leaning a little bit more towards, it was goalie interference. Was it like egregious? I mean, Pavelski was making a play too. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that. Obviously, I want it to go the way of the Avalanche, but I've seen worse goalie interferences that were not called.
And see, the thing that really grinds my gears about that whole review was why Pavelski was all there. Setting up shop, camping out, like that spoke louder to me than the actual play. Like, Pavelski, you know what he can do. There's no way he should be putting up a mailbox in the blue paint and just camping there.
Right.
So that's a defensive lapse.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, overall, Avalanche, they looked okay. They were really holding good possession in the offensive zone. I give some credit to Dallas because they were really good at checking them and getting on Avalanche right at the blue line. Like they were making it difficult to get into the zone, but the Avalanche were figuring out ways to do it. So I was impressed by that. Like as the Stars were they were doing well, not giving the Avs time and space in like the neutral zone and in the Dallas offensive zone, when transitioning and stuff like that. But once the Avs got the puck in the offensive zone, I felt like they were moving the puck around very well. They found time and space once they got into the offensive zone, which was really bizarre to me because Dallas was shutting down the other two zones, but they couldn't shut down their own offensive zone. And it showed in shots on goal. What the Avs have? 47. 47. So you're getting opportunities once you get into the offensive zone. It was a very bizarre game plan for the Stars. They escaped with it because they had a hot goalie, but that is not going to work all the time. Say this is the first round matchup, that will not work game in and game out.
That's exactly what I was about. That was my big takeaway with this game in whole. Like, we just got done playing Dallas, and we looked really good. We walked out of there shutting them out. This felt like playoff hockey. Like, you have time to adjust. You're playing the same team, and Dallas came out with a completely different look and a completely different style. And this is a good test for the Avalanche when it comes to that playoff hockey that we know it's coming. And that second round that we're always worried about getting through to the next round, how do we adjust to teams adjusting to us? Are we that predictable? Are there things that we can work on where we can get through this? And I think the game against Vegas that we have coming up is going to be even better because you have two good games against Dallas and then a formidable foe with Vegas, like just one sleep away. So how do you respond to that is also another thing to look at when it comes to the Avalanche.
Yeah. And like I said, you mentioned Vegas. Definitely tune into episode number 2 for today because we definitely talk a lot about what's going on in Vegas world. So more to get to on this game, but first we're going to hear from Built Bar and BuiltBar.com. And it is the time of the year where the resolutions are all but over and done with. But it doesn't mean you can't continue to make Built Bar part of your daily routine in trying to eat right. And if you haven't tried their new Built Bar Puffs, you might want to get on that. If you're a marshmallow fan, just like my man Kyle over there is, they're the first ever protein-infused marshmallow bar. They're fluffy, marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar. They are a treat covered in 100% real chocolate. So they are low-calorie, high-protein. Replace your candy bars with Built Bar or Built Bar Puffs. And they're better than a typical candy bar, which can have anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Built bars contain about 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. So go to builtbar.com or built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off of your order. Once again, that promo code is LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right. Some good plays. Like, man, we were talking about, well, we've always talked about that Cale Makar move in overtime. If Eric Johnson and Alex Newhook connected on that floating pass that just went over everybody on Dallas, right to Alex Newhook, who tried to backhand it, go 5-hole on Oettinger, and he shut everything down. That could have been up for maybe not, goal of the year, but goal of the year for the Avalanche. It would have been up there for that, but very nice play. Yeah, power play 0 for 4. That's an Achilles heel, at least for last night's game. And you get a couple of those, and obviously you're in the game. But that's not to say the Avs didn't look good on the power play. The first one in particular, that first line or the first unit was out there. I think there was like 15 seconds before there was a puck stoppage.
Yeah.
And it was in the zone that entire time. It was never cleared where they had to make a change. That front line was out there cycling the puck, getting shots. And when a rebound was had, they'd collect the rebound and do it again and do it again and do it again. They did everything right, but score. And that's what you can say about the power play last night. It didn't return results. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Hey, I appreciate the reference right there.
Yeah.
The power play, this has been like this for a little bit, but we've always had the luxury of saying, well, the Avs went 0 for 3 or 1 for 4 on the power play, but we got the win anyway. Tonight, you left 4 goals hanging out there on that power play. Like 0 for 4, that's 4 opportunities to get a goal. And this is the moments where you need it, especially if you can't get anything 5-on-5 because of the physicality that Dallas is bringing. If they're giving you 4 opportunities to have a man advantage, you have to walk away with at least something, because momentum, you're at home. You could feed off that, and the Avalanche have been known to come back. So if you can't, especially the penalty kill, letting up, I think it was 2 for 3 on the night.
Yep.
That's special teams was an issue tonight. So for everybody looking good individually, special teams needs to step it up, especially against Vegas.
Yeah, and that's when you give up an empty netter, which was the reason for the 4-1 score. But yeah, I mean, you get half of those. You can't expect to go 100% on the power play, but if you can get 2 of those, there's your tie game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it also didn't help. And this, a lot of people on social media like to go right to the refs, and want to put some blame on the refs. Like, look, I'm not putting this on the refs because Oettinger had a game, but the Avs could have had a 5-on-3 for 25 seconds had they called a delay of game, which was a clear as day delay of game. I don't know what they were not looking at the puck. They must have diverted their attention away for a split second, and that's when that puck was. I can't remember who threw it up into the netting, but they didn't call it, and the Avs were already on the power play. It would have been a 5-on-3, and I think at that point, and it was 3-1. I think that was in the third when it happened. But you cut into that lead, and then clearly you have more of an opportunity, because when the goalie's pulled, all you need is that 1, not the 2 at that point in time.
Yeah, and especially like hindsight's 2020, like looking at those moments. And I know we were talking about the penalty kill, but and this is big for me, Nazem Kadri, you got to get out of the box, buddy. Especially not his best game for all of the praise we've been giving him so far for career numbers and everything. You can't go in the box in games like this, and you got to kill. And he's a substantial part of the penalty kill, and you can't kill off a penalty if you're in the box yourself.
Nope, absolutely right. This is coming from Jared Bednar. He thinks that they could have done more around the net in front and to kind of challenge Oettinger. He thinks more traffic would have helped, but he thinks the team did well on 5-on-5. You look at heat maps, if you go to naturalstattrick.com,
Mm-hmm.
it is bright red right in front of the net.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily agree with him, because it seemed like they were getting opportunities left and right.
Yeah.
And it's not just 47 shots on net that were 47 easy saves. Like, he made some incredible saves. The Cale Makar one sticks out in my mind, where it was a juicy rebound that went right to Makar, who just rifled it, and he got a blocker on it.
Yeah.
And he just flew his arm out, and he saved it. And when guys are like that, when guys are having that type of game, you just have to throw your hands up and say, like, you keep battling, and maybe you can sneak one or two in and tie this thing, but it's going to be a battle. And you're never out of it when you're the Avalanche. You're never out of it. But it was going to be a struggle tonight. And this time they couldn't make it work. And it's not going to work all the time.
And I think those comments coming from Bednar was something like that I kind of saw developing in that third period. Once that lead felt insurmountable and Oettinger was playing the way he was, every time you got a clean lane and a good control on the puck, there was a shot fired. And it was like that for a while. So the slot was abandoned, and it was, if you get a clean shot and a clean look, take it. And the way Oettinger was playing, that wasn't the way you were going to beat him. You had to, having Landeskog in the slot would have really helped. Nuke back where he's supposed to be, just that extra, somebody clearing up a rebound, or even fake a shot from the blue line and just dump it down to the slot. You have a much better chance against a hot goalie with a little tic-tac-toe pass than you do a blue line slapper.
That's what you were going to have to do. It was going to have to be greasy. It was going to have to be sandpaper. It was going to have to be the juicy rebound that Makar got, that you're just going to have to get past him. It's going to be a tip on a wrist shot from the blue line. It was going to have to be ugly.
Mm-hmm.
The Avs were not getting those pretty goals and those one-timers last night. It just wasn't happening. There was a interesting quote from Bednar when asked on Vegas and how they're handling the LTIR. Short and sweet. He said, "I could care less. That's their team." Yeah.
There you go.
And he's right. He doesn't host a podcast where we love that stuff. So
come on, Betsy.
I know. So really it was McKinnon with the goal, Newhook and Makar with the assists on that one goal, and there you go. In terms of minutes, it's kind of par for the course. McDermott got 7 minutes in. Tyson Jost had 9 minutes and 23 seconds, and there was a point in the third period they came back from commercial on altitude, and when they came back, the camera was on him, and he was kind of getting set up for a face-off, and I was like, "Oh yeah." Tyson Jost is on this team. I didn't see him at all last night. He was invisible.
Yeah, Jost was not there. Comfer,
I saw him go. Yeah, he was a little bit better. I mean, I did notice him kind of trying to mix it up. Did he even have a shot on goal though? Let me see. No, he didn't.
And Comfer didn't have a shot on goal. I will say, on the flip side of this coin, still didn't look great, but trying his best. Berkey, I see what you're doing, bud.
Yes.
You are trying your very best, but we've got to work on finding that net.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he was battling. He was absolutely battling. He was putting in some good effort there. So sometimes you're going to be on the short end of this every once in a while, and the crappy thing is you have to turn right around and do it again tonight against an interesting Vegas team. I'll say that. So let's hear from BetOnline and Rock Auto, and then we'll get to our sound check and then some Claude Giroux stuff. But BetOnline, football might be over for the season, but basketball is full steam ahead for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, To where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it is not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, the NHL, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline.net, it's where the game starts. Also brought to you by Rock Auto. And with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brands that their warehouse happens to carry? Well, you have a computer with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. It is a family-run business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer. So go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us section, so they know that we sent you to them. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. All right, so let's get to our sound check. And sometimes the losses are a little bit more interesting than the victories. So if you're new to the show, after each Avalanche game, Kyle and I will pick a song that best resembles the action and summarizes the game that the Avalanche had just won or lost. And in this case, a loss. So who are you going with? And by the way, you can follow this. We add all these songs to a playlist in Spotify. You can just search LOPN Soundcheck and it should come up. So who you got for today, sir?
One of my favorite and most underrated bands in the history of the world, Social Distortion.
Love them.
With Bad Luck. 13 is my lucky number, and we had bad luck tonight.
Yeah.
It was a bad puck luck night, and that song just was the epitome of tonight's output.
Yeah. Like I think sometimes it's just going to go that way. The puck is just not going to bounce your way, and you get some bad luck in that. I mean, I think that's perfect. And maybe one of the best cover versions of all time in Ring of Fire.
Oh, so good.
It's fantastic. Highly, highly underrated 90s grunge band.
Mike Ness. Good stuff.
Good stuff. So I changed mine. I had one all set up, and then we were doing the intro, and I'm like, maybe I'll go that route. So because the Avs have to turn right around and play Vegas, there ain't no rest for the wicked.
Hey.
So Cage the Elephant.
That's a banger.
Yeah, that's it. If you have the opportunity to see them live, highly, highly recommend it. What a show.
Really?
They put on. Oh my God. I'm not too big on them. Like their albums, I can't listen to from beginning to end. I think they're kind of like a little bit repetitive, but they have some, in each album, they have like really good songs. But live, man, those songs take on a different meaning than the lead singer. I don't know what his name is, but he just goes non-stop. He is a puddle of sweat by the end of it. Good band. So yeah, I'm going Cage the Elephant. Ain't no rest for the wicked, especially if you play Borderlands, the original. It's kind of like the theme song of that video game. But because they can't, they have to get up and do this again against a very good team. Who is going to be riding an endorphin high because now they have, their golden boy that they traded for in his first action of the season. And not only is it that, you're going up against the Colorado Avalanche, who are coming off a loss. You want to give them 2 losses in a row. So
it's got to be Darcy Kemper versus a haystack with eyeballs on it because they are hurting in the goalie position.
Yeah, that could be the Achilles heel for them.
Mm-hmm.
In turn, and it's going to have to. Is that something they're going to have to address? We shall see. Are the Avalanche going to address any needs that they have, mainly in Claude Giroux? He is the hot name in the trade atmosphere, especially when it comes to the Avalanche. Excuse me. And we talked about it with Seth last week when you were crossover with the Wild. You're hearing more and more that it's, I don't want to say likely to happen, but all the tea leaves are there saying, I would guess the Avs are the front runner to this happening. I'll start with, do you think it will?
I honestly, after he told the front office in Philly that it's either Colorado, Minnesota, or St. Louis, it's going to be a two-person race between us and Minnesota. And
which Adrian Dater put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, whether or not you like Dater or not, like he usually is very good at
Mm-hmm.
his scoops and his reporting. Now, I did hear are some people in like Hockey Night in Canada that are refuting that he never really said that. So I don't know. Right now, it's kind of like back and forth. I think whether or not he said that, I don't think really matters. I think the Avalanche clearly are interested, and the Flyers are clearly interested because they had scouts at, I believe, both games, at an Avalanche game and at an Eagles game. So there is mutual interest here.
And if I was Claude Giroux and I was picking my teams and where I want to, get a title, Colorado's number one on your list. Like, you could easily just plug and play and go with that. But if the Avalanche don't end up getting Claude Giroux, listen to the Vegas episode and you might hear who we should go after.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, how about this? Who would you give up? Who would you give up if you're bringing Claude Giroux in? And keep in mind, it's a rental. I don't think there's any way that the Avalanche sign him after this year.
I would easily kick the tires on either Jost or Comfer, maybe even Jost with Berkey.
Well, Berkey would solve the salary cap issue, because the Flyers said I don't know if they've said it, from what I've heard, that they said they will retain salary, and the Avs are going to have salary retained. So he's making, whatever it is, 8. I don't know if it's 8 exactly, or a little bit over 8. It's a little bit less because you have to, it's halfway through the season, so it's not the full 8. So, and Berkey's making, let's just say half. I think he's like 4.5. So he's say for the sake of the argument, he's making half of what Giroux is. If they retain half his salary and then take Burakovsky, that, problem solved. If they don't go for Berkey, you're probably gonna have to get a third team involved, likely Arizona, who inherits Giroux, retains the other half, and then ships him out to Colorado. So that's how that's going to have to work.
I mean,
Berkey, that'd be interesting. It would be interesting.
And you can pitch the promise of his potential and peaking where he is now, and maybe he needs a fresh face and a fresh town. Well, maybe he can be something.
And he's on an expiring contract too, Burakovsky. So I don't think the Flyers are going to want to inherit him if they don't have assurance that he's going to sign an extension with them. Which, does he want to stay there? Does he want to go from one of the top teams in the league to a rebuilding team? I don't know. So he's interesting. And the other part of that is, if the Avs do inherit Giroux and don't give up Burakovsky, which I don't see them doing that, but I mean, it is a good argument to have, or a good discussion to have. Where does Giroux go? If they slot him into the second line, is that push Burakovsky down, or is that push Nichushkin down? I would say it pushes Burakovsky down. So if that's the case, maybe the Avs are kind of considering putting him in a deal. I don't know.
I would just, if the Avalanche do, let's theoretically say we run the race and go all the way to the end and hoist Lord Stanley's Cup, Berkey's value goes up. So signing him in Colorado is not going to happen. So if you're going to trade him now, you could potentially, kick the tires on just a cheap option, and you could get him out that way. And if we do have Claude Giroux come in, maybe on that second line, maybe 3C.
Yeah, I mean, He could go either one.
Yeah.
And not put him on the third line because he's not capable of hanging with this team. It just makes them that much stronger.
It does. And that's
Put
where
him
we're not scoring right now is
right.
lines 3 and 4.
Right. I don't know. I see it as, because Giroux and the Flyers are in agreement here that they're going to move. Like, he wants to be moved. He wants to go win a cup or have a chance to. And the Flyers are willing to facilitate that. I don't feel like that's a different animal than a team trading someone like Giroux. Say it was reversed, where Giroux said he didn't want to go, but the Flyers are like, tough, we're getting rid of you because we're rebuilding, we want to get something for you. That's different than what they're both going. They're both agreeing here. And because of that, because they want to appease Giroux, I don't feel like they're going to want a ton back for him.
Yeah, you're
You
right.
know what I mean? Like, I think they're going to want something. They're not just going to hand them over. Is it a first round? The first round would have to be next year. And I don't think they're going to want somebody like Burakovsky. Burakovsky can be very good for this team, obviously, but I don't feel like they're going to want someone of his high skill level. I think they will be okay with taking someone like Comfort or Jost and a promising prospect for Giroux, and because he's on an expiring contract, and maybe, just maybe, he wins maybe he goes to the Avalanche, he wins the cup, and he satisfies that part of his resume, and then he can just go right back to Philly next year and go back and say, I won it. You know what I mean? So I think the Avs are in a good spot here to not give up as much as what people are thinking they're going to have to give.
Yeah, you could think about it the same way that Pelech and Palmieri from the Devils Islanders trade that happened last year. It was out of goodwill, like, we're sending them to a contender because they don't deserve to be here.
Right.
The same kind of logic is behind the Claude Giroux move. Like, they know he deserves to go somewhere where he can actually win something. And once he does, he could go back to Philly. So that's a great point right there.
Yep. So, we'll see. I get the feeling that this is going to happen relatively soon. I think both parties want it to happen soon. And the earlier you get it done, the more he can get acclimated to the team and have more of a handful of games now rather than, in another month when the trade deadline actually is here. So we'll see. It's an exciting time.
Or you could hold on to the very last minute and have Minnesota scrambling for their second, like their next option. You can hold on to that and let everybody else scramble that thought they were getting Claude Giroux. They can wait and have to scramble before the deadline.
That'd be funny. Yeah. So, all right, everyone. That's going to be it for today. Well, kind of. I mean, if you're listening to this in the morning, hang tight until noon Mountain Time, 2:00 Eastern, where episode 2 of the day is going to drop, crossover with Tony over at Locked On Vegas, Vegas Golden Knights, that is, obviously. So very, very fun talk with Mr. Tony. He took the show over a few months ago. So he's good. He's good people.
Yeah.
So we might not like the team, but we like Tony.
Tony's cool.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Make your second listen of the day Locked On Avalanche in a couple hours. So, yeah, but you can also go over to Locked On NHL. They got a lot going on over there, including Olympic coverage, which is good stuff. So, all right. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.